share with people what you learned from that help you to be able to get your feet on the ground?
I say very specific around the types of individuals that I surround myself with. So I surround myself with people that are very curious, that will help teach me something, and that as a result, that I can then take that back and learn that from them.
My life would probably be different today without that information that I got from somebody who told me you can do it. So this is a question I'm putting before you. What is the role of mentorship? Because there are people out there, believe me, they are brilliant. Believe me, they can do it. All they just need is somebody to tell them you can do it. Any house. I am not saying I read it in a book. I researched it. I talked to people who told me how it happened to them. These people are there for the pioneer. They make it possible for us to have a place to stay. So that when somebody look at the story now, like you looking at your story, it's for them to be able to know what to do. Because we cannot experiment on everything. If you want to, because we don't live enough. We don't even live up to 1,000 years. You need more than 1,000 years to be able to build up a system, to know that this thing is called food, to know that this is how to run, this is how to stand. Because we think that we just figure out everything on our own. No, we are sitting on the shoulder of some people. That is how we're able to see far. It is literally true. So I really want to thank you so much for what you are sharing and also for the value that they have in our community. Because people look at you and say, he did it, I can do it too. That is why we are here. All right, now, we're talking about the learning process. Could you share with people what you learned from that help you to be able to get your feet on the ground? Like, did you have to read book? Did you have to go to a course? Where did you gather your information? Okay, I'm not talking of the one that you learned while you are already working, but the one that you learned that gave you the courage to even enter into the entrepreneurship and you are not moving.
Sure. So for me, it's a couple things. One, I'm very, I say very specific around the types of individuals that I surround myself with. So I surround myself with people that are very curious, that will help teach me something, and that as a result, that I can then take that back and learn that from there. And so that's one thing. Because, like for instance, I'll go and have coffee or networking, and I write down if there's a podcast I need to listen to or article I need to research. So I think networking has been the greatest teacher for me to learn and to gather information. The second thing is just in general, I'm a very I like to read a lot, so I'm reading everything from Harvard Business Review, AP News. I listen to NPR podcast, business podcasts. I like to do that so that I'm keeping informed of what's current, what the current trends are, but what's going on, in the market, what's going on in culture, what's happening in science. I think those are very great tools that are good and free to use. I would encourage, if there are barriers to that, going to your local public libraries. Local public libraries, for instance, have tools that you can use, that you can get. You can literally go and access free subscriptions of newspapers or other publications. And then finally is that I used the internet. So how we connected on LinkedIn and others. I go out and I literally spend probably about an hour or so a day just reading different articles that are on LinkedIn that are very specific to what I'm looking to learn and do. So if that's around economic development, if that's just around business trends, etc. I think those three things are very helpful. One, you're learning and building your relationships and your network. Two, you're understanding what's going on currently and the current trends. And then three, from a just a relationship and an overall branding standpoint, you can go on like LinkedIn or other tools that can be very helpful, and then um, use that to leverage for your own brand. I do that very often on my page, for things that I either read and or I'm actively involved in, and that's how I've gone about being very inquisitive, using that information and knowledge to either within business and or within my civic and other service.
Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. I would like you to speak also on the question um, of mentorship, of people to stand there that we can look up to and say, okay, let me learn from him. And sometimes when these people actually reach out to you, you can lift your hand and say, hey, come, I will show you. Something like that. Okay, before you respond, I want to share a small story about me. When I came here to Italy, I came here with a visa, of course. Then my visa expired, so I entered into what they call clandestinity, something like that, because I didn't have paper anymore. So I couldn't work, I couldn't do anything. I wanted to go to school, I cannot go to school because I'm illegal in this country now. So there was a time, I really love education, to be really honest. So there was a time, a guy, a fellow Nigerian, who came from Milan to Verona, still where I am. So he came to present his book. And I was looking at him as he presented his book. I was so fascinated. I said, because I already wrote my first book. I was in Nigeria. Of course, I was going to write my book anyway. There was nothing that was going to stop me about that. But how am I going to be able to penetrate into the Italian society now? Because I don't have papers, so I'm living here, but I'm living illegally, so I'm invisible. Then I explained my condition to him. He told me, well, you can study without going to Italian school. You can go online. I'm talking of something like in the early 2000s, no? So, okay, how am I going to be able to go online? So if you go online now, nobody is going to ask you, are you legal or illegal? What you just need to do is to register, then you start going to school. That was what he told me. He didn't need to show me. He just told me that I could do that. I went and researched. So I enrolled on London School of Journalism. I did a diploma with them. I know that it is possible. Then I went and enrolled again on another school with New York Free School Direct to do filmmaking. And I did it. These are the basic formation that I have. Every other thing I have to learn on my own. But why am I saying this? I'm saying this to me that my life would probably be different today without that information that I got from somebody who told me you can do it. So this is a question I'm putting before you. What is the role of mentorship? Because there are people out there, believe me, they are brilliant. Believe me, they can do it. All they just need is somebody to tell them you can do it. Or to show them that follow this road. Tell me something about that.
Sure. So I learned about mentorship when I was about 14 years old. I was a part of a program to help high school students that are looking to get their education and then go to colleges and pathways. And so and his name was Robert. So when Robert was, I think he was the general counsel at a big Fortune 50 company, you know, to learn and to be guided by him about everyday life, um, to learn about, I can learn and use my education that could take me a long way, to have responsibility in my community and to really give back was very invaluable for me. And I then I had Robert Anderson, God rest his soul, who just passed, and had all these other people that were like the village for me that, to be quite frank, I didn't know what I didn't know at the time. And they were very useful as I was navigating, school, as I got into Notre Dame, and then go so on and so forth. I say fast forward today, mentorship is the key to